Hey y'all, welcome to episode 189 of Consignment Chats, y'all. It's a spotlight episode, and we have got a group, a duo. Maybe they'll sing for us. I don't know. It's a little duo, could be a duet. I don't know. But we have brought in our new friends, the $1 Million Peddlers. Guys, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful.
Good. Thank you.
Good. I want to start out with a little introduction here. If you could each take a moment to introduce yourselves. We'll start with that. Who you are, name of your business, where you're located. Let's start with the basics.
I'm Papergoy, upstate New York, Rochester, New York. Basically sell over on eBay, Amazon, Etsy, whatnot, and probably a few sites that I forgot about. Primarily selling paper items.
I'm Mr. Magazine, also in Rochester, New York. I sell all kinds of stuff, magazines, obviously, toys, record albums, comic books, you name it, except breakables. And I sell them on eBay, Amazon. I have my own website, Shopify website, and I have another DVD site I sell on as well.
And a brick and mortar.
And a brick and mortar store. Yep, 50 years old, awesome. As old as me.
Wow, you cover it all, guys. Holy moly.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. Yes.
Holy moly. All right, so together, let's talk about that. How did you guys meet? How did you become what you are, and what exactly have you become together? Let's talk about that.
Mr. Magazine, his father had a store, 1973, thereabouts. Yeah. And back in the late 90s, I was collecting sports cards, and they were selling sports cards out of the store. So I would come in, and I was a regular customer. And after a while, he needed a little bit of help. And I said, I could do a little something on the side. I could use a couple of dollars as a side hustle. So I started helping him out. And then in 98, as a matter of fact, eBay was, the bee's knees, as we kids always say. And he was starting up on eBay, and I started helping him with that. And from then on, everything's growing. I started selling on eBay as well. We've branched out into the other sites. And one day, 2020, I believe it was, I said to him, why don't we start a YouTube channel? And we hemmed and hawed a little bit and said, oh yeah, well, I think we can do that. I think we can do that. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow. All right. So you guys started the same year we did. That's pretty neat. There's a lot of similarities. And Molly and I met in the, brick and mortar and became, fast friends. And that's really neat. So starting the YouTube channel, like you guys have a pretty good following, right? You have a lot of very loyal followers that just absolutely love you. What's one of the hottest episodes, like most favorite episodes you've done?
We love, I think, all of our live shows. That's when it really comes out because we're really good at interacting with the audience. And the audience kind of at this point, because we've done 180 live shows, something like that. A lot of live shows. The audience remembers old episodes. And that's one of the scary things as well, is there have been times where the audience will reference something and I'll be like, what are they talking about, Mr. Magazine? Or like whisper to me, remember when you said? I'm like, no.
This is why it's good to have sidekicks, because everybody helps keep each other like on task and accountable, and reminders as we forget things. Yeah.
He's got a good memory. I have a horrible memory, and we do the rambling story of the week, and we've done 180 something of them now. And I'm like, haven't we said that already? And he's like, no, I don't think so. So I'll ask the crowd. I'm like, if I said it, we're running out of rambling stories, so bear with me.
Yeah, and that's the segment that I actually started, because we do a lot of things in the channel about reselling, obviously, but it isn't just about reselling. We're real people with real lives. And during one of the episodes, just for no reason at all, I started dropping a story about having appliances delivered and the trouble it was trying to get appliances delivered during COVID and all that stuff. And somebody goes, the story's just rambling. And we're like, well, then we'll do that every week. So now the last thing we have of the show is a rambling story of the week every single week, which is generally not related to selling, but people actually look forward to that as well, because it lets them catch up on our personal lives, things that are going on with us as well.
Isn't that like so strange? Like I find that very bizarre, right? Like, so we, we do social media, and we had a laugh because last week I posted a picture of my lunch, right? It far outperformed any of the educational content, anything. Like, it was my lunch.
It's
like,
that
What'd you have, if I can ask?
connection.
Yeah.
What'd you have?
Yeah, what you have?
Zucchini rounds. I had zucchini rounds because we are, ears deep in zucchini right now. This time of year.
Well, all the experts will tell you zucchini brings the viewers.
Apparently.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to teach us all of these tips and tricks.
In fact, one episode, I'm going to actually replace Mr. Magazine with the zucchini.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We're on track to do that with Libby as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't be taking our zucchini idea now.
Unbelievable. And it is true, and I say that all the time with social media when people ask, like, it's that human connection. People want to know you as a person, not just you as a business person. And having that connection is what gets your followers to stay. They feel like they know you. It's what we've gone to conferences where we've been speakers, and to have somebody come up to you and be like, oh my gosh, like, I get to meet you, and this particular story really got me when you were, and you're like, what? Really? Like,
right.
Those zucchini rounds look delicious that you had on like July 25th. Yeah, they looked really good.
You got the recipe on you?
Oh my God, if someone asked for the recipe, your mom would be over the moon.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. She already is.
All right, I'm going to bring up my favorite topic, which is sourcing.
Yes.
Where do you guys find your items? What is your favorite way? Give us some of your tips and tricks of where you find what you sell. Let's start with the broad, and then we'll get more detailed.
Years ago, we did it together. We can go to like auctions, estate sales, and stuff. And then I had the retail store too, so a lot of it came through there. But as I got bigger and bigger, I had more connections of people driving all over the country for me. So now I'm kind of lazy. I either stand in my shop and buy there, or I have this friend of mine, Aaron. He's a subscriber, and we became good friends because he sold me stuff years ago, and now he'll drive anywhere all over the country for collections for me. So pretty much, I don't do much legwork anymore like Papergoy, but I do buy truckloads of stuff on a weekly or monthly basis.
And where does Aaron find stuff for you?
A lot of it's Craigslist, Facebook, or a lot of my customers on my websites will ask me, hey, I got this collection, or I stumbled on your site and I got magazines to sell. There's one in Illinois, which is like 3 hours away from Aaron. He's going there next week to pick up like 8,000 items and renting a truck and stuff. So
Wow.
every month he's driving to Utah or California or Oregon or Florida or Georgia. So, truckloads. It's got to be worth it to pay the expenses for delivery, because the trucking could be a couple thousand labor. I think one time to Utah was like $10,000 just for trucking and labor, flying there and driving back. So
how do you make sure you're going to, you've been doing this for a long time, like, right? I would be nervous to send somebody to pick up an estate, let's say, on my behalf. Like, there are so many things that can go wrong in the mix there.
Well, I trust Aaron, number one, but we've always struck a deal beforehand. Obviously, I'm not gonna, very rarely I would just buy on the fly. Though right. I did spend, I don't know what it was, $15,000 or $20,000 on a pod that was delivered to me, hoping that everything was supposed to be in it was in it, and it was. But usually, like, I have some type of proof of pictures or count. I always ask for how many items and break it down in some pictures. But we've never had any issues really. A couple times, someone would not, Aaron would find someone on Craigslist and they might shaft us. He'll put a down payment or something, but for the most part, it's been 99% successful, especially driving to these places. And the stuff I sell, and I don't have a lot of competition, so I don't have to worry about them selling it elsewhere or, trying to take stuff out of the inventory or anything like that. So pretty much smooth.
So I'm picturing, like, my heart is racing, because when we were in the brick and mortar, we had a guy that would do storage units, right? Yeah. And he would pull up his giant truck outside the store, and Molly and I would just be like, oh God, what is it now? We'd be excited for the opportunity,
right.
But
it wasn't like he'd call and make an appointment. He would literally pull this big box truck up, and we'd be like, what's happening?
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm picturing this, like, truck showing up with thousands of items in it. what does that look like?
Usually we go to the locations. They don't come to us usually. So
Well, when Aaron brings the
When
truck.
Aaron brings it, yeah, when Aaron brings it.
We sometimes we'll take a picture because it's usually loaded, 8 feet high and 6 feet wide, and we try and get measurements on boxes to make sure, because we've had a couple times where he's picked up a collection and we rented a smaller truck and there's not a lot of room, so we had to leave some stuff behind. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen because it costs me money, down the road.
Well, another thing that you need to remember on this, which we learned the hard way, there are weight limits on trucks. And when you buy magazines, you cannot stack them to the ceiling. You can only go like 2 or 3 high, depending on the size of the truck, or you're above the weight limit. And we have a video up, a haul video up, where we 3 Penske's to Ohio from Rochester. So it was 3 Penske's worth of stuff. And I think we're past the statute of limitations. We may have gone overweight on the way back on that one over there. Maybe. We didn't have a scale with us, so we can only make guesses on that.
And that was the second largest deal, the 3 Penske's. I actually bought a couple of warehouses out in Georgia with it took 3 18-wheelers to unload everything.
Yep.
So
all right, so it pulls up, like my heart is racing just thinking about this, right? A giant. It pulls up, right? Like you get the delivery of thousands of items.
Yeah.
How do you even start?
Well, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And that's one thing I'm good at least, is I've done enough of these to make sure, hey, I don't want to screw this up. So we knew how many roughly items. There's 150,000 magazines. And they were in boxes on pallets. So we had to count out how many boxes, how many can we get on a pallet, how many pallets can go in an 18-wheeler. And then we knew we needed at least 2. And then I became friends with my son's friend's uncle's cousin that had a trucking company. So
all the best connections are made through sons, uncles, cousins.
Exactly.
So in-laws.
I said, we at least need 2. We need 2 18-wheelers, maybe a third. We don't know how it's going to go. And then, we flew, Papergoy, myself, a buddy of mine, and Random Neighborhood Kid as well. We flew to Georgia for the weekend, and luckily, there were some workers down there that we paid that worked at the warehouse because they were shutting it down. The lady was actually throwing things out when I found out from Aaron that there's magazines in these warehouses that are thrown out because her husband died and she didn't want to rent the warehouses. So I said, tell her to stop. I'll give her some type of price. We worked out a price, a really good deal, but cost $7,000 per 18-wheeler. So it cost me about $21,000 plus labor and all that stuff. So about $25,000 plus the items, But and I knew, where am I going to store these in the warehouse, because I don't have a lot of room in the warehouse. So I don't know if you see those big sea containers where, they have them on ships and, people smuggle children in them. And, you see them in the movies where they smuggle those gigantic. So I have one of those that I had a bunch of magazines, Time, Life, Sports Illustrated. And I said, what am I going to do with this stuff? So I knew my buddy Matt in Pittsburgh always wanted to do something like, he wanted a bigger deal like that. So I said, I'll give you a hell of a deal. I owed him some money from some other deal. I said, you come up, empty the pod. The container. I got to fill it with these magazines. And I got lucky, gave him a deal, emptied it out. The 18-wheeler came the next week and we started filling it up, and that's pretty chock full. So
then what?
Then another.
Another 18-wheeler. Like, how does they get out and get listing, get processed?
Yeah. Wait, you're supposed to sell the stuff?
Well, the sad part is they're still locked up. They're still locked up because other deals come in that trump that, or that's easier to access. So they're still, it's like money in the bank. They're not going anywhere. We'll get to them at some point.
It's your money mountain.
And then
Yes, that's what we call it. The money mountain. It's a money container.
Oh, yeah. We got 3 pods too. My son's buddy from baseball, his father's regional manager for pods. So he gave me 3 pods free as long as I advertise them by my warehouse. And those are full of magazines.
So if you know anybody, so what are you saying is, if you know anybody that wants to sell magazines, reach out to Mr. Magazine. He's only got about 30 years of backstock.
Exactly.
I'm speechless, like literally.
Operations, right? Like to cover that kind of bulk deal, right? Like you need, like, what does the daily operation look like to cover, a bulk deal and be able to put out, like $30,000 on a, magazines that you're not going to list right away. Like, I mean, there has to be some kind of cycle there.
Lately, I try to have my own money to buy these deals. Sometimes I'll have to ask certain people to loan me some money, or believe it or not, some people trust me enough. They'll research my name and my store and this and that. And I'll say, hey, I can give you $10,000 down, but $5,000 a month for 5 months. And they'll think about it. And there's really no one else to compete with. And they trust me on it. I said, I'll sign whatever you want. And, these are people that don't really know me. They're loaning me money or their inventory. I take it, I sell it, and I pay them like I do. And I've done it with 3 or 4 people, believe it or not. And it does
Similar
work.
to Consignment.
Yeah.
Very, yeah.
Sure.
But
Sounds familiar.
Mr. Magazine is not a one-man band. How many employees do you have?
That's that was my next question was how, employees. Clearly you must have them.
Yeah, 15 right now. Yeah, we're up and down. Usually we don't go more than 15, but we got a lot of inventory to get on, and eBay's a little peaked. So, but for Christmas we might have more than 15.
Okay.
Wow.
I, however, am just a one-man band.
All
and
right.
I do all the usual flea markets and estate sales, and I get a fair number of house calls. I do a lot of stuff with books, and I appear to be about the only person up this way doing books. So there are a couple of other dealers that get into houses, and when the people have books, give my name out because the homeowner wants the books gone. Somebody passed away, they're assisted living, they're downsizing, and they want the books gone. And the dealer doesn't deal in them, but hey, I know somebody, kind of as a customer service, I know somebody that would want, and I come on in and I usually buy them out because again, I know their situation, they want everything gone, and then it's up to me to figure out what to do with it. And that's where I sell a lot of stuff over on Whatnot because you can move a lot of product quickly over on Whatnot. So that's what I've gone into doing, a lot more Whatnot auctions because of that. As far as various sales go, I'll give you an example. Last week I was back in Cleveland for a couple of sales, flea markets, things like that. This week I'm going to Mayville, New York. Next week I'm going up to the Thousand Islands. And then the week after that, I'm going to Madison Bachville, which is a huge 1,000-some dealer antiques show. So I get around. I got Allentown Paper Show coming up, Springfield, Ohio. So I get around to about 3 different states, hitting lots and lots of big sales. So it's kind of what I do now. I'm retired from my day job, so it's kind of what I do now is just drive around and buy stuff and hope to sell some of it sometimes.
Fun.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
I had a question and I lost it. I'm sorry.
Store everything. He stores them in his house. It's basically like a library without shelving.
Yeah, and what does your money mountain look like? How many rooms are there?
I've always said I've got about 75,000 unlisted items. I think I'm probably a little low on that. It's probably closer to about 100,000 unlisted items at this point. So,
Okay. So
all right, so I'm feeling really good about my backlog right now. I don't know if you guys were like supposed to be on here to pump me up and be like, I'm doing just fine with my money mountain. Just fine.
in fact, I might go sourcing tomorrow. I don't know.
No, you can't. No. Mm-mm.
So then you're a one-man show across the board. You do all your listing and everything. Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Good to
So
know.
what
Good to
percentage is Whatnot right now? Like if you were to break down your income percentage, let's say approximately what percentage
At this
comes
point,
from where?
At this point, I would say it's about 65% eBay, about 15% Amazon, about 15% Whatnot, and then the other 5 would be stuff like Etsy or a deal that I make with somebody that I know that wants something that I have, that kind of deal. So it's about 15% Whatnot at this point, but it's going to increase. I think I got 20 shows up right now on Whatnot. I actually preload everything, and I'm basically preloaded through the end of August at this point.
Oh, wow.
All right. And what's your frequency of Whatnot sales? Is that like weekly or?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Every Tuesday, 10 a.m., I do postcard lots, 4 p.m., all times Eastern. I do Ephemera. Wednesdays at 4 p.m., I do magazines. And Thursdays, 4 p.m., I do books. And then, of course, the random trains and all that people invite you to.
You
Okay.
totally put on your advertisement voice when you did that, and that was like so cool.
Well, you've heard it once. I've heard it 1,001 times.
Right.
All right. So you're doing Whatnot and it's 15%. So a common question is, how long did it take you to build up momentum? I happened to just watch your video about your first Whatnot show, but how long did it take to really build momentum, and how did you not get discouraged in the beginning?
Well, my first show, I think I did, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think I did $32, something like that.
Mhm.
And in my
Okay.
second show, I said, all right, I'm going to do better. My second show, I did 28. So I was going in the wrong direction. At that point, I'd be paying them money within 3 more shows. But I just kind of said I wanted to treat most things, and the same thing when we did the channel. Obviously, when you do the channel, you're not monetized or anything like that. I knew, because I worked for New York State, I had a definite retirement date. So I knew when I was going to leave, and I said, I want to hit the ground running when I retire. I don't want to be somebody that I retire and say, oh, I should start a YouTube channel. I should start whatnot. I should start. So everything I was doing was building up for retirement. I ended up retiring in February of this year. So it took, I'd been on whatnot about 1.5 years at that point, something rather like that. And it did take a while, and I still have dud shows. It does happen. Sometimes you do a show, just nobody shows up, whatever reason, you don't have merchandise that they want. And you just wipe yourself off and you just go back to the next show. And that's the whole secret to whatnot, is you just be consistent. You keep showing up.
Yeah. So, I mean, if somebody is, like getting discouraged, right? Like they've done a couple shows, they're just like, all right, well, this isn't for me. How long would you say they should stick it out before they have a really good grasp on it to make that decision?
I'd say they should probably, well, if they do it the right way, and by that I mean you have 2-3 shows scheduled out in advance. Because what you want to do is, if I have my show today, I want to be able to hype up next week's show and the show after. And you come in and you go and you bid on a book about dogs. I say, hey, you're going to love the show 2 weeks from now. That's got 2 books about dogs in it. You definitely got to check that out. And you just hype up, you know what your inventory is, and you drive people to the next shows. And as long as you preload it, they can pre-bid. And then I could say to you, look, maybe you can't make the next show, but pre-bid. That way you got a chance to get it. And that's what you have to do, is you have to have a good grasp of what you have up for auction, and then keep hyping every time somebody comes in. Over time, what you'll find is you have regulars. And if you know what your regulars want, I'll give you the perfect example. I have a regular who buys, do you know what the, I'm going to call them calculators. They're little things that, like, you want to tell how many board feet there are on something. And it's like this big, and you pull the thing out and it'll say if it's this size, it's this number of board feet, this size, you move it back and forth. Those are old style calculators. I got a guy that wants to buy those. So I was in Cleveland at a sale, found 2 or 3 of them, bought them. I messaged him and say, hey, these are going to be in a future auction. He'll keep coming back to auctions because I'm always looking for those for him. I'm not making a lot of money on it, but I'm kind of shopping. That's what I tell my people. Hey, you got eyes in 3 states, because I run around to 3 different states to sales. You got eyes in 3 states. You don't have to come up to Rochester. Lucky you, because I can find this stuff for you.
Wow. All right. So it's all about those relationships. And
I was about to say, that is relationship building boom right there.
Yep.
I want to know, with all of both of your inventories, I want like a really good, like a favorite item you sold kind of thing.
Well, I'll give you probably one of my favorite stories of all. And okay. I'm going to botch it a little bit because this was about 10 years ago. But I sold a playbill about 10 years ago. And this was back when it was easier to get people's information off of eBay. And I get a phone call. And, it was actually a landline back then. Us old people remember what landlines are. And I answered the phone, and it was a lady, and she said, are you so-and-so? You sold this playbill? I go, yeah. She goes, you sold that to my granddaughter. I said, oh, I was in the play. She goes, I was 16 years old at the time, and I wasn't supposed to be in. And when the Department of Labor came through, all of us underage, they hid us in a closet till labor left because we weren't supposed to be working. And she started going into this whole story about the play and all these great memories she had of being on there. And it really made her day. And she was so happy to have it. I probably spent 20 minutes talking on the phone to her. And after I hung up, I said, that's what eBay is all about. That's what I do is all about. I was able to bring those great memories to her. Yep, absolutely. I was able to bring those great memories to her. Something that she remembered back 50 years, 60 years ago, whatever it was.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Her granddaughter has it. Oh, I love that.
I don't remember that rambling story.
Add it to the next show. There you go.
There you go. Look.
Yeah, For me, though, as anyone knows me, I'll buy anything in my shop, even if I know nothing about it. But what I tell customers is I go, let me just look it up. And then I'll do a quick research. So one time a guy had his rear end was almost touching the ground. He had like 40
on his car.
On his car. Well, yeah.
I was going to make that joke. Thank you for doing that.
I can't remember, but he had like 40 anvils in his trunk. You know, those big, they're like jeweler anvils, railroad track anvils. They're just pieces of metal with the little points. And I've never dealt with them before. And I looked them up, and they were anywhere from $40 to $400. And we struck a deal, and now I'm an anvil seller. You know, so it's weird that things that people find me, and you know, I have signs up in my shop, toys, collectibles, and then they'll come in with an accordion or it's weird stuff, and I'll buy it if I can get a deal and sell, you know, make some money on it, of course. But I try to stay away from the breakable stuff unless it's valuable and I can get a deal on it.
Yeah.
But that's always our joke. Nothing worse than selling like 2 nice pieces of breakable glass and a bowling ball to the same person.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was just thinking, because the anvils would break everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
A little bubble wrap, you'll be fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, both your stories to me, just each one individually did the whole, wrapped up exactly why I love being a reseller. It's the personal story and the learning something new and touching an item you never dreamt you'd deal with. Like those, that's why it's never a boring job, because you learn something new every day and you're making connections and getting these emotional stories that make you keep plugging away at what you're doing.
I think the hardest thing that I have about the entire thing is because I deal nearly exclusively in paper, I end up going down way too many rabbit holes as far as you buy a magazine and you go, that sounds interesting. And you start reading the article in the magazine.
Yes.
You're like, wait a minute, this was 1922. I'm probably not going to be able to find the next issue. I can look on Wikipedia. And then next thing you know, you're 3 hours in researching it going, well, that was really interesting. How is it new? And I've only listed 2 items. But
Yes.
it's a lot of fun. And I really do enjoy the learning part of it as well. So it's a lot, you know, I make money doing it, of course, but it's about a lot more than money. I get a lot of education, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, the last time I listed magazines, that was like my exact story. I'm listing, and I'm like, they were like 1980s Michigan Outdoors or something. And I'm like, oh, did you guys know this fact about Fox? Like, and they're like, list the magazines already. What are you doing? I'm like, this is really cool. We should learn about, and then you Google things, and then no, I could never be a full-time magazine seller. It does not work.
I love looking at the ads. Yeah, I like, there's so many cool things.
Oh my gosh, I hope Connie Francis gets better.
Oh my gosh.
You wonder why we're trending with Gen Z with those Connie Francis.
Oh, yeah.
I could have said Myrna Loy. Come on.
Over my head now. See, we're gone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Losing Samantha.
So as far as like YouTube and, you know, whatnot shows and doing, you know, the live selling and, you know, running a brick and mortar for one of you, like, how do you guys like balance it all?
Look at them. They're like, do we balance it?
They're guys. Guys answer this question way different than women. So I'm very curious.
I mean, well, I was always a hard worker, but I've meeting him and seeing how hard he works. I had to step up my game a little bit years ago. You know, had a lot of business debt and stuff like that, and I needed to make more money. So the only way to do that really is to buy more and sell more. For me, that was my philosophy. But you know, and he'd get up early, 3 a.m. I'd start getting up 3 a.m. You know, sometimes we meet at 12:30 on Mondays, 12:30 a.m., which I hate. But then I'm up for 3 hours, take a 2-hour nap, get up again, you know, and do my thing. But I got two good managers in my brick and mortar. My sister Lori's my manager there, and I own a laundromat next door to that, so she kind of runs all of that for me. And I'm 51 now, and you know, I got a couple kids, and I want a little bit more freedom, you know. So they play sports and this and that, and I'm able to travel more and do more things because of her and my manager at the warehouse, Mike. They're great. They're honest, trustworthy, loyal. They care. And, you know, I even told Papergoy a couple months ago, I feel guilty. I'm working instead of 80 hours a week, I'm working like 70. I go, I don't know if I'm doing enough, because I started exercising like first of the year and, doing weights and spending 2-3 hours in the gym. And I go, taking golf lessons, things that I never used to do. I go, I feel just guilty. I go, I don't know. Should I not do these things? And he's like, you got to keep your sanity and do what you got to do as long as you can pay the bills and you're working, So that's it for me. July is a busy month. Every weekend we've been gone to, football camps or baseball tournaments, or, I'm going to Metallica this weekend with my son in Boston. So, but other than that, now I'm back in August and, working back again. No more breaks after this. So until Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I try to, being retired now, I can basically work while Mrs. Papergoy is at her job. And then I try to include her as much as I can on it. And I'll give the perfect example. We're going down to a show this weekend, this weekend, as a matter of fact, Mayville, New York. It's a paper show. And I went last year and it was okay. And I'll break even on the deal going down there. My expectations are.
Like,
However,
what's a paper show, first of all? Like, back it up a little bit. I don't know what a paper show is. It sounds a little bit like The Office. Like, I don't know.
All dealers in vintage paper, ephemera dealers, magazine dealers, book dealers. So it's all just paper stuff, things that I would be interested in. Believe it or not, they have shows that just have that stuff. There may be some artwork there as well, but it's all paper items. And we stay in Ellicottville, New York, which is an absolutely beautiful ski lodge kind of town. Little walking town, wine bars, all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm bringing Mrs. Papergoy with me, and we're having a nice romantic weekend. Oh, by the way, we get to go to the paper show tomorrow. But and that's the great thing about having a business is it's a legitimate trip. I'm going to make money on the trip. Hopefully, we'll do a haul video out of it as well for the channel, which is always fun to do as well. But we get a weekend away that it's tax deductible, essentially, the hotel and all that. And then Madison Bachville is about 1,000 dealer show, runs 7 days, 8 days, something like that, about 2 hours. We usually go Thursday, Friday. Well, I was going to go earlier in the week when people start setting up. And then I found out from another dealer that there is a show up in the Thousand Islands. And I said, I wonder if Mrs. Papergoy wants to go to Utica, New York or the Thousand Islands. Some reason she chose the Thousand Islands. Figure that one out. We're going up to a nice show up in the Thousand Islands for the weekend. And then we're going to go to Utica the week after that. So some reason she's probably going to get sick between Thousand Islands and Utica. Utica, sorry. Nothing against our fine friends in Utica. It's a wonderful town.
I'm just, all right. So that really resonates with me, right? Because anytime like Molly and her husband will do sourcing vacations. What do you call them, Molly? You have some
workations.
Workations, right? And it's always like a combination. And I seem like wherever I go, it's always, I'm combining the two because I just love it so much. Like it's my hobby, it's my job, it's everything. So I'm glad your balance is also unbalanced.
Yeah, Libby cannot speak about balance. She's like trying to figure out what part of her sleep routine she can remove to work more. So that's yeah.
That's why I asked about balance. I thought maybe they had some magic formula for me.
One of the hardest things about sourcing, though, out of town, now these are fine because all of these I'm driving to, but I remember years ago, I went with a buddy of mine out to San Diego Comic-Con, a couple of different years, went out there. And there's actually a good, well, they don't call it flea markets out there. There's a nice swap meet out there. And went to the swap meet, and actually I had to buy luggage to send my stuff home that I bought at the swap meet because I bought enough good stuff. And I said, how am I going to get this home? Wait, I'll buy luggage. So I sent it home that way.
Raise your hand if you've ever done that.
I just recently had to do that. Although we didn't have to buy the luggage, my husband was able to go to his brother-in-law's where we were visiting and get one of their old pieces of luggage. But not only did we have the extra luggage on the airplane, but we shipped like 8 boxes home. So
to be fair, I did buy the luggage at the swap meet. So
yeah, well, that's
you go.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, after Camp Listing Party last year, I'm pretty sure that the resellers bought out all the luggage at the Deseret because they were doing the same thing.
Yep, they did. They did.
All right, so I'm like, my eyes are open because I'm thinking, all right, well, ephemera, paper, you could fill up, you don't need a big vehicle. And Mr., you can get 1,000 pieces in the trunk of your car and you're like, you that's good. You're good. But Mr. Magazine kind of just blew that
Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
conception out of the
You
water.
also have to be careful because if you have a saggy rear end, this is not
Right.
good. Like you don't.
Yeah, true. Good shots.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell a quick story if I may.
Yeah.
So I was going through the flea market 3 weeks ago, a local flea market, and I was part of a Whatnot Con, and they sent me out a hat. So I was wearing a Whatnot hat. Still have the tag on it because I love Mini Pearl, and boy, we're really getting the Gen Z today. And so I was walking through there, and a dealer that I know, and I wasn't really in the mood to buy anything, and I said to him, I haven't bought anything today. He goes, well, you're buying that box of paper from me, $10. Well, I had started looking through it, and I wanted 2 of the first 3 items I saw in there, and the price on those were $6, and there's this many more items in there. And I go, well, how do I not buy it? So I said, all right, fine, I'll buy it. I go, I'm going to leave it here. He goes, okay, no problem. So I walk around the flea market a little further, and around the corner, dealer was sitting there, and it was husband and wife. She saw my hat. She goes, do you sell on Whatnot, or do you just wear the hat? Which didn't come off quite the way that it just sounded. But I said, no, I sell on there. Go, what do you sell on there? I said, oh, Ephemera, magazine, books. They said, do you need more inventory? I said, well, yeah. They said, I've got 3 totes of books right there, $2. I go, okay. Now, $2 is that's like 67 cents a tote. How they came up with $2, I don't know. I said, yeah, all right, I'll buy them all. So no problem. I said, do you mind if I leave them? So I went walking around the flea market, went back to the first guy at the end, and I said, I got to get my head examined. They just sold me 3 totes of books, $2. He goes, whoa, good. Then you're buying the rest of my books for $40. And I'm like, what? And I looked in there, and he had a couple of 3 books from the late 1800s, early 1900s map books that were taken apart partially. And if you take the maps out, believe it or not, maps from back then will go for $5 to $10 a map. Mm-hmm. And he had 3 full books of maps, and he wants $40 for everything. And I didn't even know what else was in there. I go, I hate you. I had to pack it up. I ended up making 9 trips from the flea market back to my car in about 85-degree weather, wearing that stupid Whatnot hat that was making me sweat like you wouldn't believe. Wow. And I don't know if you've ever been to flea markets or not. Not everybody goes in a straight line at full speed. So all of a sudden, somebody stops in front of me. Have we seen that table yet? I'm like, I don't care.
Well, it's a good thing you were there. I mean, you were down to what, 75,000 items in your Money Mountain? Like, thank God.
We definitely needed to top that off just a little bit.
Yeah.
But I did a short video about that where I filled the Rogue. My car's a Rogue. I filled the Rogue for $67 between everything I bought from everywhere. $67. I completely filled the vehicle.
Well, it's basically a storage unit. Every time I come here, it's full of stuff.
But the nice thing about it was the paper that I bought from the one gentleman for the $10 did have one piece in it that I just sold 2-3 days ago for $124. So that one piece
already doubled your money.
Well, yeah, doubled my money off one magazine. And oh, by the way, I had a few other items left over.
All right, so I need the truth here. How do you decide what you're going to list first? Is it just money? Is it interest? Is it like you're faced with a box of things? How do you go about, or do you just go through and make yourself list it in order?
At this point, I have so much stuff listed already. I've got about almost 25,000 items up on eBay. And I've got existing boxes that the things are in. So at this point, I'm starting to run out of room. So I'll look and I'll go, oh, box B16 has a spot for about 15 brochures in it. Oh, I just picked up 15 brochures, and I grabbed 15 brochures, and that's what I'm listing. I'm almost listing size of things to fit into existing spots.
First time I've ever heard that answer to a question ever. That's a very different strategy. Yes.
Well, the way we've always talked about it is we're not dealing in perishables, and that truckload or carload of magazines that I bought, books that I bought, they're going to be worth tomorrow what they're worth today. And we don't. Mr. Magazine does a little bit, but we don't tend to deal in things that are volatile either. Mr. Magazine sometimes will deal in sports cards, things like that go up and down in value, and comic books. The stuff that I'm dealing in, 3 people want that 1911 book, and 3 people are going to want it next year. So it's not going to be worth any more or any less.
Oh, that's interesting.
That makes sense.
So I have a personal question, because I have some old family ephemera papers from way back when that have just been getting moved from one attic to the other of our family and now lives with me. I always worry like I need to get them to a museum or something, but because I worry they're going to just disintegrate. They're not kept well. Is there like a condition that you keep them as far as humidity, weather, temperature?
I things like that I keep in the basement, and I have dehumidifiers running down there all the time. So basically, you try to keep them in a dry, cool, dry area is what you try to do with paper.
Okay. Exactly what's not happening with these papers. Okay,
You just put them in a pod next to a warehouse, is what I learned with magazines. That's what you do there.
We've done that with record albums too, in the winter and the heat, and they've been fine as well. So
yeah. All right. Just need to think about that. Just as you're talking about all this, I keep thinking these papers that have been lugged around for centuries. I got to figure out what to do with them.
Well, another thing that you guys may deal in this, but I find it fascinating, are photographs, and all the people that collect photographs. And the old, in fact, I was just at the flea market back in Cleveland this week, and when I walked up, the vendor used the old joke, instant relatives, and she's like, "Don't you want to get Uncle Frank and Aunt Matilda?" I go, "It looks like Aunt Martha." She goes, "Oh yeah, probably is." But a lot of people will buy old photographs, which I don't understand, but they definitely will. And the one that I showed Mr. Magazine a while ago that had sold on eBay, which just amazed me, was, you know what photo booths are? You know, they have them at the mall and you put your dollar in or whatever.
Yep.
It was a photo booth photo from the 1940s. And basically what it was somebody doing this. And so it was their hand. You could barely see a face behind it. It went for $120.
What?
Sorry, how did you decide to put it up for that, or did you auction it?
No, I didn't put it up. I found it when I was looking through, and I was just like, "What the heck?" So I always look.
Okay, it wasn't you that sold.
No,
it. Okay.
I always look for photo booth stuff now, because little Bola right there, photo booth pictures. The other thing that'll sell very, very well with photo booth pictures are pictures of 2 men or 2 women showing being very friendly toward each other. You would just list those as gay interest from back in the day, because the world was different back then. And so they're in the photo booth, they can express their love for each other. Nobody else is ever going to see that picture. Now those pictures go for $100, $150, $200 for a photo booth picture of same-sex people, like that. Yeah. Hugging and whatever, kissing. Yep.
I don't think I have any of those, but I sure have a ton of old family pictures from way, way back when. Nobody knows who they are because all the family's gone and nobody can identify them. And I'm just sitting here with boxes of them going, you feel bad letting them go because they're some ancestor of mine, right? But how will I ever know who it is?
I've sold ones, you just group them together. Like this was a wedding, and this was the day at the beach, and and people buy it. And
then you've got these that will be great Halloween creepy decorations, right? Like,
yes.
So what would you recommend? So Molly has, what she's not saying, your family is a fairly prominent Southern family. So there's history behind it, right? That's not just like everyday stuff. What would you recommend to her? Like,
I'd have to see the images, because some of the images you want to break out, depending on how you want to sell them. Like I'll give you another little inside tip as to what sells well over on Whatnot, are pictures of kids with dolls. People love those. People love those. Absolutely love those. So any of the images that have something like that, men in uniforms, people love those.
I have a lot of men in uniforms.
Yep. Those I would break out and sell
separately.
Oh yeah. No, you're talking nice things right over there then. Yep. So I would break those out, and then just the things that just are just the common, Aunt Matilda sitting next to, Uncle Rico, whatever. You put a bunch of those
together. You do consignment and consign them, but you've got way too much inventory for that.
I'll put them at the bottom. 100,001.
What, Samantha?
I said you'll need the Thrifty app so that you can go out and find people to sell these for you. That's what you need.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you
I'm going to have Libby dive in. Libby's going to be at my house in a couple of weekends, and I'm going to have her dive into these buckets of photos with me. That's what I'll do.
And by
All
any
right.
means, you've got my contact information. Just send them over, random pictures, and I can tell you, hey, this one looks better. This would be this. This would be this. Certainly, of course.
Awesome.
Thank you. That's nice of you. That's very kind.
So would you I'm like, all right, should she like develop like a following and kind of like tell the story and everything
Probably,
before? Like, have you ever done that with an estate, like preserve the history of it if you knew it? Or
that's the big argument, and I know we've had that argument any number of times, not in a bad way. We had that debate, I guess would be the way to put it, whether you break up an archive or not. If you break up the archive, you certainly can get a lot more money out of it, but you like to keep the history together if at all possible. So that's a tough decision, and it's a personal decision. It's almost like another thing that I have issues with myself are the book breakers, because I don't like to see the books broken up. But people will take a book and they'll break it up and they'll pull out all the photos of it and they'll sell those separately. All the prints and all that, they'll sell them separately. Now, I will not feel bad doing that with those map books because they're already damaged and the person's already removed some maps. So it's an incomplete book at this point. All bets are off as far as I'm concerned on that. But when I have a book all together, even though it might be worth more broken up, I try not to do so. I don't pull ads out of magazines for the same reason.
All right. When you first started with the broken books, I was like, I just listed broken books 2 days ago, but not that kind of broken. They're old. My great grandfather, I had to look through because I looked at he pencil wrote his name in it. Great grandfather had these 1800 whatever books. But the binding is like hanging off of one of them. The other's missing the binding, but all the pages are in there. So I just listed them.
Yep.
I've never listed something like that, but I can't keep carrying them around.
Well, and another thing that I don't know if you sell over on Whatnot or not, but if you do, look into the junk journal and the junk journal trains.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely incredible. When I find distressed items, I put them aside for those trains. And I'm one of the only people on those trains selling old ephemera. And people love it. And if I've got a book that's already torn up and wrecked, hey, you take it, you cut it up, you do whatever you want with it. It's saving it from the recycling bin is the way that I look at that. So Mr. Magazine sometimes brings by some things like that as well. So, hey, we're not going to list it. It's not going to go for anything on eBay.
Yeah.
And I had a fashion catalog from like 1912, something rather like that, missing the cover, missing like the first 12 pages, and had a whole bunch of cutouts out of it. Good luck selling that on eBay. I put it up on Whatnot in a junk journal, and it went for $40-some.
Wow.
Now, the nice thing about that is you can page through it, and you can say, look at these fashions. Well, whoever bought it is going to absolutely cut it up. No way you could get $40 out of that on eBay. None. No chance whatsoever. Whoever bought it, I'm sure they repurposed it and did a wonderful thing with it.
Probably made some fabulous journal pages for sure.
Yep.
Wow.
That's cool.
Ooh, some really good ideas here, guys.
I know. Libby's wheels are turning. I can see.
I know. I can't even think straight.
Now she's going to be like, all right, maybe I'll jump back on Whatnot.
I really want her to. I really do.
You want her to? She doesn't have the room on her plate to jump back on
cold
Whatnot.
feet. I've had Whatnot cold feet for like 2 years. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've done it. There's no room on my plate. It's filled with zucchini rounds. I think we've already established that.
Oh, Lord.
Maybe you could sell zucchini rounds on Whatnot. Just saying.
There we go.
Round recipe written on old photographs and old ephemera.
Or you could take the old broken up book that you bought from me in the junk journal and cut the letters out like you used to do with ransom notes and put the recipe that way.
Like a serial killer recipe.
Gosh, you guys are a ton of fun. All right. I'm going to wrap this episode up because I know we could just talk and talk and talk because y'all got some great stories and y'all are fun. But I want to wrap up by asking each of you to, I'm putting you on the spot here. If you need a few seconds, Samantha can play some background thinking music, Jeopardy music.
He puts me on the spot every Wednesday. When he comes up with, I don't even know what he's going to say.
I want to know, we want to know, not just me, but all of us ladies at Consignment Chats want to know one thing that you are most proud of about your business and what you're doing right now.
Where's that background music?
Where's Kazoo from I Flip That?
I think for me, I'll go first. For me, I think it was when I took that step from renting 2 warehouses to buying a 20,000 square foot warehouse that was completely empty 6 years ago, and now it's filled up with over 1 million items. So, like, to me, that's, if you look at it, it's pretty overwhelming and impressive, even, for me to say it. But like, it's like I don't know how big Amazon warehouses are, but it's got to be similar to something like that.
I'm impressed. Samantha, we need your pom-poms and a clap on that one. That's here we go. Wait, pom-poms.
And if I could do a quick plug for the channel here, there actually is about an 8 to 9 part warehouse videos over there. They're actually in a playlist called Warehouse, and you get an entire trip through the warehouse. Now we have to update it because it's a little more filled since then.
It was about 70% full. Now it's 110% full.
Right, so everybody stop where you are right now and look at the link that Libby shared below. Make sure, put it in your notes, that when you're done, that you find them, you like and subscribe, and you watch these videos, because I know I want to watch the warehouse video for sure after this.
Yeah.
And I think,
y'all don't forget to do the little likes. I know a lot of people like to watch them. You forget to do the likes and put a comment in, but that really helps us small YouTubers out there that love what we do and just want to continue doing what we're doing. That clicking that little thumbs up and putting a comment, thanks for your time or whatever. Give them some love when you watch.
I think the thing I'm most proud of is I had a day job for 33 and a half years. And I've been building the business on the side since 1998, 2002, whenever you want to say that I started it doing that. But it's the fact that I was able to hit the ground running upon retirement. And at this point, I think I've bought the remains. Now only the paper side remains. I'm not going to get into glassware or anything, but I bought the remains of 3 estate sales so far. And it's actually at the point where I walk into the sale and the dealers, the estate sale dealers are like, your car's empty. Good. And I'm like, but that I'm actually up at that level locally that, everybody knows if they've got paper, books, things like that. I'm the person to call on it. Magazines, they would call Mr. Magazine, but the other things they would just call me on as well. And that I've got that kind of a name and a reputation around here that I built that up. And, I go into sales and people are like, oh, you're the paper guy. You're the guy that does paper. And I'm like, yeah, I am. What do you got for sale? And it's one of those, I always say, they always see me coming. I don't know how that works, but they always see me coming. But, and I know that, Libby, you're not a huge fan of Whatnot, but the volume that I'm buying, I absolutely have to do that because.
Oh, yeah. If I had a different business model, it just doesn't work for my business model, but I absolutely see the benefit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always argued the biggest argument against Whatnot that people make is you don't get price, which is absolutely true. And I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Buys a Lot or not, but he's basically gone almost strictly to a Whatnot model now. And he says he gets about 40 to 60% of what he could get elsewhere. And I'm probably close to about 40%. But if I'm walking in and I'm buying an entire vehicle full of stuff for $67, if I'm getting 10 cents on the dollar, I'm doing well, let alone 40 cents on the dollar. And that's the way that I look at it. If you can buy right, you can sell right. And that's really what it comes down to on Whatnot. And I've been able to get so many big deals around here that I don't even, 90% of the time, I don't even look things up. I buy them and I just throw it right on Whatnot. And I don't care if I've had people say, you sold this to me and whatnot for $5 and it went for $100. I just got $100 out of it. I said, good. Now you have $100 to spend at my next auction. Good.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, I think anybody
Join me
going
next
into it
Thursday.
needs, any reseller going into it needs to have that attitude.
Yeah, I've heard several people say that. I know when we were at Boss, I can't remember who, we were talking in a group, and a couple of them were saying, and we look at it as, we got it and we made money off it, and phenomenal that this person now is going to make money off of it. It's great. I'm happy that I doubled my money, knowing they can turn around and double theirs, right? Like, I think that's a great attitude for sure.
Right. And I think the one attitude, and we've actually done a video about it as well, shameless plug, is you are always going to leave money on the table. Always. Because an item comes in, maybe I could get $12 for this on eBay, but I could get $15 on Etsy, but maybe I don't know that going in. Or maybe it's a $22 item on Amazon, or maybe if I put it up at whatnot at auction, maybe it would go for $30. You absolutely never know. Or maybe I've got this item that I sell to you. Well, you have a Facebook group that's very, very niche and you're part of it, and you're able to double your money knowing that. Well, I left money on the table selling it to you, but
you just spent $30 just trying to decide, right? Yeah. Like you just blew your profit margin trying to make that decision.
Yeah. And too many people don't see that. Too many people want to get every last dollar out of every last item, and you will never will. And the sooner you accept that, the more you can get onto your next deal. And that's what Mr. Buys a Lot says as well is, yeah, I'm getting 40% of what I could, but I can turn my money over. By the time you sell that item for $20 on eBay, I've already turned that money into $30.
Yeah. Good quick flip. Yep. All right. Well, guys, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. Thank you for hanging out with the ladies of C Chats. Do you have a cup nearby? Because we like to toast ourselves out. You guys got a cup?
I saw that fancy emoji. Oh, they both got them.
Matching.
All right, y'all. Remember to like, subscribe, but not just for us. Go check out the $1 Million Peddlers, because gosh, are they a wealth of information. I cannot wait to go catch up on some of their videos. Until next time, friends. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for joining Libby, Molly, and Samantha, the ladies of Consignment Chats, as we build a resourceful community of collaborative resellers. This podcast is sponsored by ListPerfectly. To join our free private communities on Facebook and Patreon, and for all things Consignment Chats, visit us at consignmentchats.com.